So it became obvious that it was a choice. And we got to a point where I knew that what I was longing for was a different type of relationship than that was able to provide. And so I may not have known it in Course terms, but what the Course would say is it was a very special relationship that was very dysfunctional. And I knew that. It was very obvious. I can see it. I felt it. I could experience it. So then the choice that needs to be made is, now that I can see it, is, do I want to continue in this experience? Now, I knew also at that point I cannot blame him for the experience. So it wasn't about alienating or even severing the relationship, but rather it was about, I need to talk. You know, we agree we see this dysfunction. We agree this isn't working. We agree we are both suffering. So here's the choice. Either we assign it a purpose, in which case we can share, which goes back to the shared purpose of a peaceful mind, or we can carry on going the way we are and try to make it better, still with both parties with different purposes or seeking different things. And so that was what I was sharing Brittany yesterday, that I remember sitting down and having this conversation of, you know, we need to decide, and him saying, well, I'm not sure what I want to do right now. And so for me, that was a decision. And so in that, I knew then, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. And so the fear is going into that place of, I'm cutting it off, or that's going to be severed, this idea. And so the ego said, that's what the ego's telling you. It's like, oh, you're cutting it off. What you perceived as love, or where you got love from, is now being separated, or it's gone. That's what the ego has you thinking. So it's like, you know, when we're afraid to cut off a relationship, when we know it's the right thing to do, or to say no. So all that fear is coming up. But what we find is, in doing it with spirit, so it's not coming from a place of, you're a bad person, I'm leaving you. It's coming from a place of, I want this to be the holy relationship. I want to see this relationship different. You don't want to see it, but then the decision's obvious. Cutting it off. The emotions still come up. But the difference is, and I was sharing this with Brittany too, which was pretty profound for me, is there was no attachment to the emotion. So it isn't like Craig's suffering. It was more like, oh, there are sensations here that are coming up. There is no meaning that needs to be ascribed to them. And so it passes. And before you know it, you're living in the miracle. There's a shift in perception, which also happened to change the form. He moved out and so forth. And then there's a recognition, you know, that he's innocent. How can he be anything other than what he was? How else can I have been, you know, wasn't like, oh, let's beat up Craig for making all these wrong decisions. It's about understanding this is the function of the ego, which is impersonal. You know, you're not responsible for the ego. It is impersonal. It's like a software program playing itself out. You are the hardware. The hardware is not touched by the software, right? You can have software on a computer. The hardware is the hardware. You can also erase the software. And that's kind of what, analogously, what we're talking about with Mind Train is, you're literally wiping away the software program. You're wiping away what's there, so that what stays or remains is just the hardware. Now, it's not hardware, it's just a symbol, but love is that which is never touched. It's always
changeless.
It's changeless, it's unalterable.